The presidential race gets all the coverage: Trump, Hillary, Sanders, Cruz. But most of what the presidential candidates promise never gets done. There's a lot more legislation that really affects San Diegans done here at the state level. I'm 10 News reporter Jeff Lasky. We're going to be tracking the biggest issues facing not just San Diego, but all of California. I've been talking with some of our political leaders from around the state and going through proposed legislation, collecting fact sheets like this one from Escondido's Marie Waldron about water storage facilities, to this is an actual bill about internet poker, or the first 10 pages of the bill. This is actually 71 pages. The point is, we're breaking down the legalese to let you know what will really affect you in your life. We'll be doing stories on specific issues, from the raging debate over gun control to how the controversial bullet train could completely change how and where we live. We'll tackle issues you never realized were serious issues, like what to do about driverless cars. And would you believe there's even a new law being proposed about selfies?
Starting with a selfie.
First, we take pictures and post them on social media of our dogs and of our dinner. If people start taking pictures of themselves in the act of voting, fulfilling the civic obligation, then hopefully we'll have higher voter turnout in our elections.
This is our tour guide, Thad Kauser. He's worked in the state legislature, but now he's a political science professor at UC San Diego. He's written several books on politics and every year trains students to be political staffers. So before we dive into each issue individually, here's an overview of the major battles in Sacramento that will affect you in 2016.
The biggest battle that's going to dominate this legislative session is what to do with our budget.
Well, that's not a surprise. Isn't the budget the biggest battle every year? Sure, but this year's fight is actually different, and that's a good thing for California.
Normally the fight in a budget is, boy, we have to make big cuts, we have less money than we thought. Now we have much more money than we thought, a few more $1 billion, but that's going to lead to fights that are going to be just as vicious.
Vicious because it may have popular Democratic Governor Jerry Brown locked in a battle with his own party. Most politicians want to take credit for anything good that happens under their watch and work on their pet projects, but not Jerry Brown. He knows the good times won't last forever. That's why you hear him talk so much about the rainy day fund.
I don't want to make those mistakes again. According to the economists at the Department of Finance, the next recession, even if it were only of average intensity, would cut our revenues by $55 billion over 3 years. That's why it's imperative to build up the rainy day fund.
This is California. It's the boom and bust cycle. We know our budget's going to be in trouble in the next few years. We need to be stingy now to save money for the future.
Another big topic, guns. California is typically one of the first states in the country to pass new gun laws, and this year it could happen again. Lawmakers have already proposed a few new gun bills, although they're not necessarily targeting the guns themselves.
And California will move to things like potentially registering ammunition and requiring background checks for ammunition.
All right, let's move on to a whole new issue.
Every electronic toy that we get for Christmas, the California legislature is going to have to deal with.
That is only partially joking.
However many million people ended up with a drone in front of their Christmas tree this year, they're all going to be paying attention to this legislation, right? Am I going to have to register with this with the FAA? Am I going to be able to take pictures with this? Or am I going to be accused of invading someone's privacy? Or if I'm flying in a plane, how do I make sure that that drone's not going to hit me?
Technology is complicated for lawmakers because usually the problems occur before legislators even know what the technology is. And that's what's happened with drones. They exploded in popularity last year, suddenly causing big headaches for law enforcement, fire safety, airports, and people worried about neighbors using drones to snoop on them in their homes. Another new hobby has Sacramento racing to catch up.
Fantasy football is almost here, and FanDuel's one-week leagues are paying out $2 billion.
These weekly fantasy football games are something where the private sector got out way ahead of the public sector, right? It was every TV ad on a football game before attorney generals knew what this was. And so now state politicians are looking at this and saying, this is gambling. We're having legalized gambling in our state. In effect, what do we do about that? Can we do anything about it?
Because of the uncertainty, tens of thousands of players in California don't know if their favorite game is even legal. It's such a big issue, a big hearing was held the very first week of this year's legislative session. The Attorney General is also investigating, so expect lawmakers to do something on this very soon. Those are just a few of the many issues affecting your life that our leaders are debating right now in Sacramento. We didn't even get into California's drought and housing crises, the bullet train, the disaster in Porter Ranch. You get the idea. We've got a lot of stuff to work out in California. So let's wrap up with a positive message from Professor Kauser's own experience. During our conversation, I asked him a cynical question. How many of California's lawmakers are more concerned about their own jobs and raising money than actually helping Californians?
You know, the perks of being a California state legislature really aren't that great. Right? The pay's higher than most state legislatures, but lower than most businesses. You have to be up in Sacramento day after day, week after week. And so the only thing that drives the people to knock on the doors of so many voters, to ask for so much money to run, is that these people genuinely care passionately about the state, where it's going, their district, how to help real ordinary Californians.
Will that passion be enough to help all of us this year? Stay tuned to 10news.com, and issue by issue, we'll find out together. For 10news.com, I'm Jeff Lasky.